Activision presents a smashing blast from the past. Developed by Vicarious Visions. It's Crash Bandicoot!
Hello and welcome to Let's Play Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy, the remastered version of the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy. So I am going to eventually get to all three of the games that are in the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy on this remastered version. However, this was actually not a game that I grew up with in the 90s. I did not own a PlayStation 1. I owned an N64 and was a Nintendo kid for the most part. So this was a game that I actually did not get into until just recently a few years ago. But for now, we're going to go ahead and start things up. And as you can see, once you kind of get into the main menu here, we have, of course, the original Crash Bandicoot remaster, which is what we're going to be doing in this Let's Play. But we're eventually going to get to Crash 2, Cortex Strikes Back, and of course Crash Warped. So there are the original three Crash Bandicoot games remastered. But for now, we're going to jump into number 1. We'll go ahead and let this story play out, but I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in depth afterwards.
But Dr. Cortex, we haven't determined the cause of past failures.
Moron! This Bandicoot will be my general. He will lead my Cortex commandos to world domination. This time, I shall reign triumphant. We are closer than ever before. Quickly, into the vortex.
Dr. Cortex, the vortex is not ready. We have no idea what it could do.
Failure again. Capture him!
Uh-oh.
Prepare the female Bandicoot.
Alright, so after that cutscene has finally concluded, kind of introducing the main story element here, we are going to get started here on Insanity Beach. And as you can see, Crash has officially landed on the beach. So the basic controls of this game are the jumping mechanic, of course, we'll be able to jump on various boxes, as well as the spinning mechanic, where we will be able to use that move to actually attack enemies as well as break boxes. But yeah, so this is basically Crash Bandicoot right here in a nutshell, just starting off. So we have various enemies that we will kind of stumble upon, and some of the enemies you will be able to take down with a simple jump attack. However, some you will be able to only take down with the spinning move. Where some are taken down by both, some are by neither, and of course some are taken down by one or the other. And of course you have the checkpoint boxes. So the checkpoint boxes are going to, just like they say, give you a checkpoint in the levels. So that way when you break them, you can just restart there if you die. However, if you don't get every box and die, you will still not get 100%. So yeah, so I wanted to kind of get back into, that's kind of the basics of kind of how this game operates. It's a very unique platformer, and it is also a very challenging platformer. Probably one of the more challenging games I've ever played in my entire life. And even though I did mention that this was not a game I grew up with. This, of course, the original trilogy released on the PlayStation was not something I was actually ever able to play, because I didn't own a PlayStation 1 and had no interest in actually going back and purchasing one later on. Again, just until just recently, a few years ago, I was able to pick up this remastered version and fell in love with this game, and completely understood why this game is loved by many others as well. As you can see here, we have a switch back there that we actually hit, and we actually spun into with an exclamation point on it. And that is actually going to be important, because you will find some of those metal boxes that will have that exclamation point on them. You will have to spin into those in order to reveal a certain amount of boxes that aren't normally visible. As you can see, we have 48 out of 49 boxes. The last one is over here, and as you can see, we are now rewarded with a white gem. So gems are going to be the main collectible in this game. You will have a series of white gems as well as color gems to find, and they are completely dependent on if you make it through the level with, of course, breaking all of the boxes as well as not dying. And this is kind of the main little end scene here. As you see, we have exact percentage of how far we've gotten in, and we have, of course, the number of gems and keys that we will find much later on. There's only 2 keys, and there's a total of 26 gems, white gems. And I believe there are 6 color gems. So lots of stuff to find, lots of stuff to do, and we are just getting things started. So going back out here to the main menu, this kind of operates more in terms of kind of Donkey Kong Country is how I would describe the main overworld. So we're going to have a series of 3 different islands, this being the first one, Insanity Island. And we're going to go ahead and kick things off now with the next level, which is Jungle Rollers. But yeah, kind of like I was saying, this has a lot of similarities to Donkey Kong Country when it comes to the overworld, where you're kind of on like a giant map and you're kind of making your way around the entire place. And for this one, we will have actually 2 more islands we will be able to explore that have several levels as well as a few different bosses on each island. So lots of stuff. This game is not really long at all. It's actually pretty short for the most part, but it is packed with a bunch of stuff that we have to do, which in my opinion is what makes it one of the more challenging platformers out there, as well as the actual platforming itself, which I haven't really got too far into yet, because I kind of had to do a lot of basically talking about some of the main mechanics here. This is actually a Tana symbol. So Tana is actually Crash's girlfriend, who was actually unfortunately taken captive by Dr. Neocortex, who is of course the main villain of the game. Haven't really talked much about him, as well as his partner and assistant, Dr. Nitrous Brio. So they essentially are 2 mad scientists that got together and decided it was a good idea to basically conquer the world, which is their end goal. And in order to do that, they need to, I guess, experiment on a bunch of different wildlife that is, I guess, located around the islands that we are traveling across right now, which essentially takes place in, I guess, Australia, since I think that's really the only region where bandicoots can be found. So basically, yeah, so in short, Crash was one of their experiments, and fortunately for Crash, he was able to escape because there, I guess, wasn't a mishap with the Cortex Vortex, which is essentially the machine that Dr. Cortex and Dr. Brio use to perform their experiments on the animals and basically mutate them, get them in a kind of a hypnosis state where they can essentially manipulate their minds, allowing them to build up an army so that way they can fulfill their goal of conquering the world. So yeah, so that is the main story of Crash Bandicoot. I know it took 2 levels to get there, maybe 1.5. But this right here is a bonus stage. So once we collected all 3 of the Tana's emblems, as you saw just previously, we will actually have the ability to warp into a bonus stage. Now these are actually required if you're looking to complete the game at 100%, since you have to break every single box in the level. And yes, so you guessed it, the boxes in the bonus stages do count for your final total once you get to the end of the stage. So if you missed any bonus stages, chances are you are not going to complete that stage at 100%. In this one, unfortunately, we are missing just 3 boxes, but this is the first stage of many that we will not be able to break every single box on our first time through. So yes, there is a lot of backtracking as well that's involved in this game, very heavily, especially for a lot of the color gems. So as you can see, we missed 3 boxes there. But yeah, again, we do not have to complete this on the first try, since we simply just cannot. But we will be making our way back there once we have a certain colored gem, which we will get a little bit later on. But for now, we're taking on the next level, which is the Great Gate. I actually want to go ahead and open up the menu. I completely forgot to even talk about this. Really show this off. This is the menu. You have your kind of sound options and music levels. Those I always keep at max. I just want to pull that back up real quick. So on the right, you will have your total percentage of completion. So we kind of just started off, we're only at 5. It'll show you a rundown of your keys, your white gems, and then your color gems will show up there on the bottom once we, of course, collect those. So that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. That's the menu. Let's get into it. The Great Gate. But yeah, so kind of going back into the main story. So that's really all there is to the main story. Basically, a bunch of experiments went wrong. Well, not really wrong, but they basically experimented and abused the heck out of these animals. Very, very cruel. But hey, the 2 guys that want to take over the entire world, it doesn't really surprise me that that's one of their goals. Now, again, this is a game, like I said, I did not grow up on. When I was a young child, I played games like Super Mario 64. or Banjo-Kazooie. Those were the platformers I grew up on in the 90s. So I did not, you know, of course, grow up with Crash Bandicoot. I didn't grow up with Spyro the Dragon. However, these are the games that I decided to get into just a few years ago because I heard so many great things about them and wanted to try it for myself. So once I had an Xbox One, I decided to go ahead and purchase these remastered versions. These have been out since, I think 2018 is when these were both this trilogy, I believe, and the Spyro the Dragon original trilogy were remastered and released in 2018. So not too long ago, but long enough to where if you don't have, you know, if you don't own these by now, you really should. Like, these are really great games. But we'll kind of talk about the game we're playing, since of course that's the game we should be focused on, which of course is Crash Bandicoot. So quick little note here, as you can see, we've kind of moved on to this little 2D sections. We're gonna have a few more of these coming up, or several more of these coming up. But it's not going to be in every single level, but that's something that's kind of important because this is another reason why this game is so unique and I think popular, is because so many different ways that it does its platforming. Kind of similar, I would even compare it to Super Mario Galaxy, where you're kind of switching from 2D to 3D. I know that game definitely picked that up as well. Super Mario 64 did not really have a lot of that. So I think that's one thing that made this game kind of stand out above that game and some other platformers at that time, because again, that was really a unique time to try something out like that. Of course, we see it a lot more in some of the newer platformers today, but Crash Bandicoot was definitely one of a kind during the time of its release, when it originally was on the PlayStation. So I kind of rambled on a little bit too far now, but I had another bonus stage here. But basically the comparisons, I would say, like if you're thinking in terms of like comparing this to say, let's say Super Mario 64. Okay, so the reason why I would say Crash Bandicoot stands out even more so than that game is just because it has such a unique, well thought out and detailed main story, as well as very creative and unique types of platforming. It's not really as much as an open world exploration game, kind of more like Super Mario 64 is, where you're kind of just freely exploring, you know, each different level, and then you're collecting your specific items and stars and whatnot, where this game is not like that at all. And no hate to Super Mario 64. By the way, I want to say no hate at all. That is an amazing game. I love that game so much. One of my all-time favorite games. And right there is actually a gem path. That's something that we will be seeing. I think we actually saw one in one of the previous levels and I didn't point it out. We'll be seeing those as we kind of stumble through some, or kind of make our way through these levels, but of course we will not be able to do anything with those once we, or until we get a specific colored gem. And then that's when we will do some backtracking to make our way over to those, because that's actually where we're going to get the remaining boxes that we're missing right now. But we're going to take on this next level, which is actually pretty fun. And it is boulders. So this one has a very unique mechanic to it. As you can see, we're actually moving in the opposite direction that we have already been moving in since the beginning. And we're going to go a different direction. So we have a nice little new camera angle, nice little beautiful meadow there to start things out. Sun shining, everything's good, going great until, yes. So this is a giant boulder level. This is one of, I think, oh, there's only a couple more of these, I believe, after this one. Actually, I think there's only one more to be exact. But yeah, so we're essentially now navigating over platforms as well as running away from a giant boulder that will smash us if we're not careful and we actually aren't quick enough. So here's another mechanic, once again, that kind of makes this kind of game really pop for me. Like it just kind of goes there, where my first time playing through this, which again was just very recently, a few years ago, I was like on the edge of my seat. Like it was very challenging, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm going to admit I was very frustrated a lot, even in the beginning, because I just was not used to this type of platforming. However, now that I play the game a few more times, it is a lot more enjoyable. And one of the nice things about playing it for the first time ever was you really, I mean, I had no idea what was coming around every single corner. Like every level was a complete, you know, breath of fresh air in terms of complete new, like it just felt very fresh to me, and a whole different type of platform. And as you can see, we got our white gem there, so that's very nice. We escaped the boulder, got our gem, things are looking great. Yeah, this game was a complete different beast for me to take on, and even though it was frustrating in the beginning, I really grown to really love this game and appreciate all of its creativity when it comes to the type of platforming that it provides. Now we're moving right along, and I'm just kind of talking in circles here. I want to stay on topic to some of the stuff I was talking about, but yeah, so basically think about Super Mario 64 as a standalone platformer, and then maybe compare that right side by side to Crash Bandicoot. So Super Mario 64, open world exploration. You have kind of one main objective, you know, the main antagonist, Bowser, of course, during the main story is kidnapped the princess. You have to travel through a giant castle in order to save the princess. And of course, you have many different levels and puzzles and challenges along the way. Crash Bandicoot. Crash's girlfriend gets kidnapped. He has to escape the lab and travel back through the islands in order to save her. However, it is not just as simple as a, you know, main antagonist just capturing his, you know, beloved one. They are also trying to conquer the world, but to do that, they have to, you know, of course, mutate a bunch of different animals to build a large army. They tried to do it to Crash. It didn't work. He escaped, things like that. They are holding his girlfriend hostage. So really, they're trying to dominate the world by building this giant army, and everything didn't go as well as they'd hoped. And yeah, there's still a lot of mutated animals out here, and Crash has to basically warp through a bunch of different areas. It's just a lot more complex, and I feel like Super Mario 64 is a lot more, I guess, simple when it comes to the main story, where Crash kind of really goes there, and it goes a lot more in depth and kind of crazy with it. But just kind of comparing kind of some differences in some of the main stories of some of my favorite platformers. I just think it's important to point that out. And then I didn't even explain Aku. So this little masked spirit guy is called Aku, and he is basically a we have some more gem pass on there. Of course, we cannot take quite yet. But Aku is a ancient spirit that has taken form of a mask. So he has actually decided to aid Crash on his journey, and he has decided to provide him protection during his adventure. So he is basically, I think the main reason for that is because he's, I guess, concerned over his island. He wants to protect his people in his island, I think, is, from my understanding, what the reason is for Aku wanting to team up with Crash and help defeat Cortex. But Aku is very essential to have in the game. So he kind of acts as your additional hits or your, I guess, invincibility once you obtain a certain amount of him. I believe once you have collected 3 Aku boxes, of course, without taking hits, because once you take a hit, you lose one of your Aku, you will then turn invincible. And I would jump right into the pond right there. That's perfect. Perfect. It's going great so far. All right, so now that we had to restart the level because I did not want to miss out on my 100% completion run here, since we're pretty close to the end. Right there, of course, was the end. And of course, I wasn't even able to get all the boxes anyway, so it didn't matter. That's all right. Going back into Aku. So yeah, so he's basically your protection. Basically, you get a couple extra hits and some invincibility once you collect 3 of him in a row. So kind of nice. He is kind of a, I guess he's a witch doctor that is, again, taking the spirit of a mask. So very cool, very unique. And yeah, this game kind of, again, it's more set, I guess, in Australia. So it has more of that tropical environment to it. So having like a masked witch doctor spirit in your corner is definitely something that is pretty nice. Pretty cool. Like, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty cool. But this is the saving function. So basically you just want to hit the, on my version, it's the left bumper in order to bring up the save menu. X is to save and overwrite any save file. And then I believe A is to load up a save file. And then delete is another button. I can't remember. But anyways, that is what we're going to do, because it is now time to face off with the first boss of the game. Poo-poo. Just kidding. It's Papu. I had to say it. I'm sorry. It was so similar to that spelling. But this guy is essentially a evil islander who is being, I guess, mind controlled by Dr. Neo Cortex, of course. The guy is a menace, and he's manipulating the minds of our beloved islanders. But this guy's pretty simple to take out, of course, with him being the first boss. That's kind of something you should expect. You just want to wait till he does this little spinning move with his staff. And then once he stops dead in place, you want to jump on top of his back to basically, I guess, take his bite, or, you know, damage his back and make him unable to stand straight. I don't know. This guy, I feel like he should maybe get a health coach or something. I don't know. I'm not going to judge this guy. Who knows what he's been through. I'm not going to place any judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. There's no way I'm doing that. As you can see, we already have him down to 1 hit. He's pretty cake to take out. I guess the only thing I could see people struggling with on this one is if they don't realize they have to jump on top of him, because I don't think you can spin into him. But anyways, Crash is going to use his giant belly as a trampoline to jump on out of there. Very nice. Very classy. I like it. And we now return to the Wumpa Islands. So it is now time and move right along. So boss 1 is done, and we are moving right on to the next level. And as you can see, this is actually another mechanic that was actually, I think, just introduced in the remastered version. I could be wrong. This is Coco's time machine. Coco is actually Crash's little sister. However, she does not normally appear in the trilogy until, I believe, the second game, and I think she's in the third one as well. So Coco's main mechanic is she's actually going to travel back into the first game's map once you have defeated the boss, I think, once in the first game. Now, Coco can actually be a playable character once you have defeated the boss for the first time. And then going through the game again, of course, she reappears here on the map as a time machine. So you can swap Crash out for Coco. Kind of cool little mechanic there. Not really necessary, but I've actually never used it. Might try it sometime, but for now, we're not really going to worry too much about that. Like, since, again, she's not really a main focus in this game, but she is in the next game. So we'll kind of not really talk too much about her until then. But now it is time for Rolling Stones. And no, it is not the rock group that you were thinking of. I know you probably were. But yeah, so anyways, this is a mechanic that kind of brings back memories of Donkey Kong Country for me personally. I don't know why this level kind of gives me a vibe as one of the... I remember there was a level specifically in Donkey Kong Country 1 where you had to maneuver underneath and above these like giant rolling wheels that the beavers, the naughties, or whatever they're called, the beavers in Donkey Kong Country were, I guess, rolling on. So that's something that brings me back to those days. Kind of cool how they I feel like this game uses some mechanics from Donkey Kong Country as well. Alright, so just like a fool, I completely skipped over this nitrous Brio emblem. This is conveniently just placed in that one box right there. So if you blow up those entire boxes with those TNT dynamite boxes, you actually miss the collectibles that are hidden inside. Even if there's just apples inside of the boxes, you will miss every single thing in that box. Now, one thing to point out is if you collect 100 apples, you will get an additional extra life. So that's something important to note. If you are looking as someone that's, you know, has to grab everything in your path in a collectible platformer such as this one, that is something that's very important to note. So 100 apples equals another extra life. And again, if you hit those TNT dynamite boxes and you ended up blowing up boxes that contain collectibles inside of them, you will lose everything that's inside those other boxes. So make sure you grab your collectibles before you blow up the dynamite, because again, it's important. Now we're going to take Aku and unfortunately lose him because we have another Tana bonus stage, and it looks like we're gonna have our very first nitrous Brio bonus stage in this level. So very cool. I'm going to kind of talk about that once we get there, but first we're focusing on this one. I definitely screwed this up. This was definitely not the way you're supposed to do that. You're basically supposed to jump on top of those and then break them one by one. I found a way around it, so we're all right. I really want that extra life. Extra lives in this game are not too hard to come by. But I would definitely recommend grabbing as many as freaking possible, especially if you're playing this game for like the first or second time ever. That was not something I did on my first try, and it went horribly wrong because, yeah, I ended up dying way too many times than I should have. But anyways, and I did get game over several times. I just want to say that. I know I'm embarrassed to say it, but it was my first time playing the game. Didn't grow up on the game. It was the very first time I played a game like this. You kind of have to expect something like that, so... but now it is time to open up the nitrous Brio bonus stage. So this is the very first one. And unfortunately, because the guy likes to experiment with his crazy chemicals and his explosives, he's going to place a bunch of TNT boxes throughout these stages. So this one's the very first one. It's not too bad, but definitely much later on, they get pretty complicated. So, but nothing too hard here. We went ahead and got that one done, and he explodes right in our face. Very rude. But we're going to go ahead and take our boxes that we collected here, add that to our grand total for the level, and we're going to continue onwards. Looks like we're just 10 boxes short. So we want to make sure we find the rest of those 10. I think we can get everything here on the first try. Oh, maybe not. No, this is the end. Yeah, I think actually there was a gem path, wasn't there? I think I failed to point that out. But anyways, yeah, we are just short 6 boxes, but it looks like we're going to have to backtrack here in a much later episode, once we have a specific gem for that. So yeah, we'll go ahead and drop him on our head. That's fine. We'll take it, even though that's rude. All right, so we're moving on to Hog Wild, one of my favorite levels and a very interesting type of environment. So you'll kind of see here. and you thought this game wasn't creative enough with its platforming, welcome to hog riding in Crash Bandicoot. So yes, this is a mechanic I was definitely not familiar with when I first played this game the very first time. In fact, I kind of hated it. Now that I've done it a few times and I've kind of gained a little bit more familiarity with it and kind of gotten used to the control patterns and the enemy patterns, definitely, I have grown to love these stages. I love the fact that you can ride this thing and you just break boxes as you go. You just want to be careful not to die like I did just there. So as I was claiming to be an expert at this just moments ago, of course I would fall to my death in that very embarrassing way of doing so. But yeah, this isn't too bad once you get the hang of it. You essentially just want to make sure you time your movements, of course, when you're approaching these spike things, as well as those guys with the shields, because they can be a pain in the butt. You just want to alternate with them and make sure as soon as you're like pretty much right near them, you want to just move in the complete opposite direction that they are, which can be easier said than done. I know, especially in your first few times doing it. Like for me, it was hard. But after a few times, it really isn't that bad. So you just want to really focus on the road. Make sure you know exactly what's coming ahead of you, and you'll be just fine. Collect our gem, and we'll get the heck on out of here. So very nice. We 100% of this level. And we will finally add another gem to our collection, bringing our total to 3. So 3 white gems starting off. Man, we're not doing bad at all. And we're already at almost 20%. So almost a quarter of our progress is done already. And you'll kind of see that percentage kind of skew a little bit. You know, one level it might jump up 1%, one level it may jump up 5. You never know. It just depends on how many things you collect in the levels. And I guess how many, you know, what bosses you finish, things like that. But for now, I mean, we're really off to a great start with it. We're doing everything we can at the jump of the game. So everything else that we haven't gotten yet, that we've passed over, we have to come back later to do. So, but now this is it. This is the final level of the first island. So we're going to finish this thing off with a native fortress. All right, so we have another little 2D type of level here. I think this entire level is 2D actually. But first things first, we want to make sure we grab our Tana emblem, just given to us right here at the beginning. And yeah, I didn't really explain these much before, but these jump boxes that are metal, you want to make sure that you're holding the A button down, which I believe on every console it's the same button, maybe except for the PlayStation. If you're playing the original PlayStation 1 version, that's probably different. Whatever's synonymous to the A button. But anyhow, you want to make sure you're holding down your A button in order to make those jumps a little bit longer. So Crash will actually jump a lot further if you're holding down the A button the correct way. So that was actually something I had to discover on my own first time I played this game, because I didn't get that for some reason right away. I guess I'm just slow at getting simple concepts like that. But again, didn't have anything like this in the platformers I played when I was younger, so it was just a new experience for me. But after a while, you get used to it, and it's nothing new. So obviously, since it's not new anymore. But anyways, we're going to continue on. As you can see, we have more of these plant guys, and we have these turtle enemies. So the turtle enemies in this game were the first enemies of many that actually allow you to jump on top of them, and you can actually use them as like a spring. These guys will hold up shields, but once you jump on top of their heads, they will hold their shields up, and then you can get to the side of them and then spin attack them to destroy them. The plants are pretty easy. You can either spin into them or you can just jump on top of their heads. Either way, it'll take them out. But yeah, the turtles will allow you to basically gain a little bit more height in your jumps, similar to how we use the metal boxes with the up arrows on them. So kind of cool, except they can get very interesting once we get to a couple of later levels that are coming up eventually, where we will actually have to use those turtles in order to basically make it across a certain path in a certain level. I'm not going to name it. Those who have played this game know exactly what it is. There's actually more than one. The monkeys are kind of annoying. I don't know if they think they're in Donkey Kong Country, but this is not that game. But they're kind of they're getting on my nerves a little bit. They're just kind of chimping around, and they're making a little weird sounds and crap. So we'll have to just get rid of them. But now we're moving on to the next Tana bonus stage. This one's not too bad. I missed the days because I've actually just played through Crash 2 recently. I just missed the days where in the early bonus stages it was like, you know, you get 5 boxes and you just make it to the end, and that was it. Like, they get way more complex, especially even in this game towards the end of the game. You'll kind of see they get a lot more complex. And the bonus stages in Crash 2, I don't even want to start on those, because those can get very, very interesting. So, but those of you that are highly skilled at this game are probably laughing in my face for even saying that. But now we're gonna continue onwards. And we have more of these bouncy boxes we're going to go ahead and use. Actually, in a coup up there, and I missed him. Fell all the way back down. Not too bad. That's okay. These things, you just basically want to spin into them before you jump on top of them. That way, you're able to use them as an additional platform. They will eventually reset, so you want to make sure you get across them in a reasonable amount of time. So again, we're going to try to actually get this a coup this time. And we did that time, so very nice. We're going to make our way all the way up here. And of course, we got rid of that turtle. We probably needed him. But hey, I got that box a different way, so it all worked out in the end. I'm not too mad about it, except we're gonna die in a very crazy way like that. I have never died like that, I don't think. All right, so jumping back up here, we're actually gonna do this the correct way, and this is how you're supposed to get this box. So it's one of those. Some of these boxes will have the ones you can actually see the apples inside of them. They will contain multiple different bounces. So unless you have them demolished by the TNT boxes or you spin into them, you can actually bounce on top of them, I believe 5 different total times, and they will release apples every time. And of course, I'd fall right onto that spike very unnecessarily. So you just want to keep that in mind in case maybe you're close to your 99 or your 100 apples. Some of those boxes you can get quite a bit out of. Now, these things can be a pain, but there is a trick coming up towards the end of the level that I'll kind of talk about here. But these things, you basically just want to wait till they're not lit, and then you can jump on top of them, of course. So everything that's like that on fire, of course, Crash cannot go through fire unless he has invincibility. That's the only exception, but we don't have that, so we want to make sure we don't get our butts burned. Our butt burned by the fire. All right, so we're just moving right along. But yeah, this is almost it right here. This is the final part, I believe. There's a gem path. Of course, we can't take that. We'll be coming up, actually coming back here much later in the game, I do believe, if I remember correctly. And those huts in the background are kind of cool. I love the backdrop to most of these levels in this game, but especially these 2D levels, I would be fried to a crisp there, of course. All right, so I finally got across there. I didn't actually show it the first time, but I'm actually going to jump back over just to show you how this is supposed to be done properly. So I kind of forgot how you do this, but basically as soon as that thing lights or it starts to go out, you want to just jump on it. So wait till it lights, and right there. Don't even give the fire time to go out all the way, because you will not make that unless you go as soon as it starts to go out. And I mean as soon as the thing starts to go out. But don't let that fool you. That is a dick of a move, I will say. This game's amazing. But that is a very challenging part to understand how to do. Because you try to, you want to avoid that flame. But what they don't tell you is you can kind of jump a little early, a couple seconds early, and you'll still be fine. So. But now that we got through that, as you can see, 11 boxes missing, but unfortunately, can't do anything about that because we don't have the gem yet. So, and like you saw before, there was another gem path, so we'll have to come back here later, and we will grab those last 11 boxes at a later time. That's going to be it for the first island, though, it looks like, because now time to move on to island number 2, and this is, I believe this is actually the technical term is the Wumpa Island. This one's actually Insanity Island, but anyways. In the next episode, we will be taking on the very first level of the second island. We're getting pretty far already, not too bad. On our way to stop Dr. Neo Cortex and save Crash's girlfriend, Tana. So until then, I will see you later.